it's Kari Mathews of Prairie Quilting. Today we're working on my quilt, Cherry Trifle. The pattern is available through my website, prairiequilting.com, and the fabric I used for this is my very first fabric collection, Peaches and Cream with Text. So it's really fun. It's a one block quilt, and we're going to be playing with all these fun kind of fruity fabrics. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we are going to be making this unit here, and first we need to make this unit. So let's go ahead and we're going to connect one of these green squares to one of the peach squares to one of these green triangles. Okay, so we'll go ahead and fold that over to connect it up, and then we'll just do the same with the other 4 squares because we need 4 of this type of unit for this block. And this is really fun. This quilt has it's a real scrappy quilt, so you can play with all the fun colors and make your own blocks up if you'd like. Okay, let's go sew. All right, and we're going to go ahead and press toward those triangles. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and add this other triangle. So we'll just fold that up, and I like to sew from the squared off corner. So we're going to turn this over and sew down this side. Okay, and then you see here, the needle should come out where that point is right there. I love this fabric. It's so fun to be using my first fabric collection. So fun to play with all the fun fabrics. Okay, let's sew. All right, and we'll go ahead and press toward the triangle again. Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and clip off these corners here. So we take away as much bulk as we can from this block. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and make the square. So we're gonna put our 2 triangles together, and I am lining it up in this corner, okay? And if we're off a little bit, we'll kind of compensate in our seam, but this one matches really well. Okay, so we're just matching this up. And last one. Okay, let's go sew. I'm trying to be careful not to stretch because these are bias edges. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and press, and we're just gonna press toward that, the triangle with no seams. I like to press toward the area that has the least amount of bulk. All right, and we're gonna clip those corners. So next we're gonna make square and a square units, okay? So we have our squares, and then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna sew on opposite sides. We have one with all the pink, and the red is the center of all of them, okay? So we'll go ahead, and what I'm doing is I'm matching this up in the center of the triangle, and I eyeball to make sure these ends are hanging out the same amount on both sides, okay? And then we're gonna go ahead now, and we have we're gonna make 4 of this one where there's 2 different colors, okay? So first, let's just go ahead, start with this dark red, and we'll do the same thing. We're matching that up so that the ends hang out the same amount on both sides, okay? And one more. All right, let's go ahead and sew. right, so we are going to go ahead now and connect up the opposite side. So for this pink one, it's all pink. So we're going to go ahead and connect it up to another pink square. Okay, and I'm going to wait to press till I'm done with opposite sides here. And then for this one, it's going to be the opposite color on the opposite side. Okay, so we've picked this light green cherries. It's kind of a minty green. It's really pretty. All right. Okay, let's go sew. All right, we're going to go ahead and press toward the center. All right, so now we're going to put the opposite sides on. So we're just going to take our pink and put another pink on. And once again, I'm lining that up so that the ends hang out the same amount on both sides. Okay, so let's go ahead and sew. All right, so now we'll connect up that last pink side. Matching it up, making sure they're hanging out the same amount, and then the rest go on the green here. Okay, and our last one. All right, let's go ahead and sew. So we're gonna go ahead and clip. I've already clipped some of these, but we're gonna go ahead and clip all of the corners, and it's better to do it before you press. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and press out toward those triangles. We're going to go ahead and trim this down to size. You can do this with just a ruler, or if you have a handy dandy little square trimmer, that is helpful as well. Okay, so the sizes for all the parts and everything are in the pattern. So what we're doing is we want 1/4 inch from each of these points. Okay, so that's where one of these tools comes in handy. It has like a little grid thing on it. And so I'm lining up the white here with my points, okay, as best I can. And then I'm matching up, there's a 1/4 inch line here. I want that 1/4 inch line on or very close to those points, okay? So now we're gonna go ahead and take our rotary cutter and trim around. And then we're gonna go ahead and just rotate this, okay? Okay, so there is our trimmed block, and we're gonna trim all of the rest of these blocks. All right, so now we have our corner units and our square and square units. Let's go ahead and finish our block. Okay, so now we have this all laid out, and we have our square to squares, and then we have our corner units. And if you notice here, we have the star that's coming out in this around the center. Okay, so we have a fancy 9 patch. So let's go ahead and match up our squares, and I'm gonna go ahead and put a little pin in that. So there's a pin for that one, and then this one doesn't really need it unless you want it in there. All right, let's sew. Okay, so here we are again, and we've got these two connected. Now let's add the third side. So I'm just lining those up, the top and the bottom. Let's get a pin for this one. And let's go ahead, and these seams are nesting, so it takes away a little bit of that bulk as well. Let's go sew. Right, and for pressing, we're gonna go ahead and go toward the outsides on this. There's less bulk that way. That's for the top and the bottom of the block. And then for the center, we will go toward the center. And there's kind of a lot of bulk meeting up here where those points are. So just press them nice and flat. I use a lot of steam. Okay, so now we have our 3 rows put together. So let's go ahead and connect our rows now. We have our seams nesting here. So we're gonna go ahead, give it a pin, and we're gonna also pin over here. Okay, and then these seams on this spot are not nesting, so I'm going to force the nest, okay? And so I'm gonna go ahead and just fold that back, and then I can feel that those seams on the back side are nesting. And when I go ahead and quilt that, it's gonna be just fine. And it's okay to have it. I just press it down. I'll show you how I do that. I have my needle down. All right, and now we have our last row to connect. Okay, so let's go ahead and nest these seams again. We have a very fancy 9 patch we're putting together. Okay, and here, once again, I'm forcing that nest on the back side. Okay, sometimes you just have to force it. All right, and we're gonna go ahead and press away from that center. That just seems to be the least amount of bulk here. All right, we are finished with our block. Okay, and I have some of the other ones I just wanted to show you. There's just a lot of different color combinations. I hope you have as much fun playing with my Peaches and Cream fabric line as I am. I hope you had fun, and I hope to see you soon for another project. Take care.